I'd like to call this meeting to order.
Might be stuck with
Today is, what's today's date? Tuesday, March 24th. It's about 7 p.m. Tonight we have a Planning Zoning Commission public hearing, and my cell phone's ringing. Public hearing and general meeting. Fair warning. We have a pretty, I think, simple agenda tonight. Let's get right into it. I want to congratulate everybody first off that we're in the NCAA pool. I still have one team in there, and I'm proudly wearing it. My other three kids, all their schools got bounced, but that's okay.
That's right. We got a Johnny over here too.
Yeah.
St. John's?
Yeah.
You're a St. John's grad?
No, I'm not, but I bought into it. Seriously.
You drink.
I'm a St. John's over here, my father.
Oh, cool. Here we go.
Yes.
There we go.
I'm
Leonie and St. John's family.
Go Huskies.
The next meeting, we'll have to discuss this again. The next meeting will be at 10:20.
Good.
Okay, here we go. Public hearing. The first item on the agenda is a continuation of public hearing regarding subdivision application number 632, also known as PL 26-11, Missionary Society of Connecticut, Inc., at 471 Mansfield Avenue. I'm going to take the liberty of not reading everything into the record on that, since we've already seen this twice. This application was withdrawn on St. Patrick's Day, March 17, 2026. In your packet or in your file, we have a letter from Craig Flaherty, representing Redness and Mead, with regards to that. Jeremy, you want to tell us why it was withdrawn, or does it matter?
Yes, the applicant's going to apply to the Environmental Protection Commission. Stony Brook flows through the property, so it's state statutes require that the EPC take a look at it first. So
See it first.
they're
Okay.
going to be proceeding to the EPC over the next few months.
So I'll probably come back around, but then to get to the EPC first.
Correct.
Awesome, thank you. Alrighty, the next item on the agenda for the public hearing is proposed amendments to Darien Zoning Regulations put forth by the Darien Planning Zoning Commission, known as COZR number 2, 2026, also known as PL 26-26. The proposal to establish a temporary moratorium on large multifamily projects for the period of 1 year. Large multifamily projects are those of 25 units or more. The moratorium is proposed to be for 1 year period from the effective date to be established by the Commission. The temporary moratorium would apply to the entire town of Darien. The full text of the proposed zoning regulation amendment is on file and available in the Town Clerk's office and on the Planning Zoning Office and in the Planning Zoning Office for inspection, and online at dariencT.viewpointcloud.com. Jeremy, what do we got?
Sure, what we have is a zoning regulation amendment proposal put forth by the Planning and Zoning Commission itself. So in a case like this, I'll present the application to both the Commission and the audience, explain what it's all about, what regs are proposed to be changed, the rationale for it, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll talk about any questions you may have or the public, their opportunity. So this gives a little background on what we're trying to achieve. So you can see it's proposed 1 year moratorium on what we're calling large multifamily projects. So again, the outline is to take a look at some recently approved and constructed projects in Darien, many of which are still under construction. We'll kind of look at how Darien's changed with the multifamily housing through the years, review the need and length of time for the proposed moratorium, and then talk about some questions that folks have asked me and kind of run through those questions, because I'm sure if some people ask me, there's lots of people with the same questions. So this chart, although very hard to read, there's lots of small print. I can run through it for everyone here. It's a list of all the multifamily housing projects in Darien approved since about 2000. The first major project was Avalon, 189 units, and it was approved right before 2000, about 26 years ago, and took a few years for them to build out. There are some deed-restricted affordable units in there, and that was an 830G project. And the chart goes all the way down. You can see it kind of about 3/4 of the way through. It shades to dark brown, And that talks about some of the projects that are now being constructed, like the Corbin District, which is downtown, Heights Crossing, which is the corner of Heights and Hollow Tree, which was just completed. And the green gives the number of constructed units since 2000, which is constructed multifamily units, 795, and 320 of those have been constructed since COVID. And then the part below, which you see below that, is approved construction now underway. We'll be talking in a few minutes about those projects. There's 6 of those multifamily projects now underway, ranging in size from 8 units to 175 units. And those total another 356 multifamily units.
336.
Yes, I think it changed. I think the chart I have for you changed a little bit because Heights Corner is now just getting underway. So we have about 676 units constructed or about to be constructed since 2020, which I'm going to call it the post-COVID era. So it's quite a few. And the bottom line you see there in blue is the potential grand total, which we'll see by 2028, is about 1,159 multifamily units in Darien. More than has been constructed in the history of Darien, just occurring since the year 2000. So you can see a lot approved recently and a lot now underway. And a question came up, how does this relate to single family? Darien developed hundreds of years ago. You can see the murals, and it was predominantly single family. And that, in the chart shown up here, shows since basically 2017, that's been changing. So the chart, the left-hand side in blue, shows the changes in single-family residences through the years. A lot of what we see in Darien is kind of unique because it's tear-downs. Darien, people take down their house and build a replacement house in the same location. So the blue side shows the number of demolitions, the number of houses that went in, and then, if you will, the net total. And what we tried to do in this chart is list the specific addresses. So people say, oh yeah, I remember that one. But on the right side, earlier today, we were able to put in, we'll call it orange or yellow, depending on what you're looking at, is the multifamily development that occurred during that same year, the number of units. And it really shows the nature of what's changed through time. And you can see just without seeing the details way in the back, you can see that there's more multifamily numbers in the more recent years, and those totals are increasing. So what we've seen is, the bottom line here is, there's been over 300 multifamily units in Darien, and about 240 single-family residences. So what we're going to see going forward is multifamily increasing at a much faster rate than single-family increasing. Darien's growing, but the growth is predominantly multifamily housing. And we saw from the earlier chart, it will be for the next few years. So now we're going to talk about the developments which were in chart form earlier. But these are the projects approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission over the past few years. Some of them recently completed. Darien Commons is on Heights Road and was redevelopment of an old Stop and Shop in Walgreens into a mixed-use project, multifamily housing with retail, restaurant, personal service uses on the first floor. 122 units, 16 of those deed-restricted affordable units.
That's 12%, right?
I believe that was 12%, yeah. And then Heights Crossing, which is a little bit down the street at the corner of Heights Road and Hollow Tree, just completed. There's a few commercial tenants just moving in. That was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission a few years ago, completed late last year. 65 multifamily units, 10 of which are deed-restricted affordable units. I think that was 14%. Corbin District project, we'll talk a little bit about that today. That's been constructed in various phases. The first phase was, I'll call it on the east side of Corbin Drive. And the second phase is now underway. You can see it from I-95, you can see it from Boston Post Road. And in all, that will be 128 multifamily units with some additional deed-restricted affordable housing included.
Those are ones on East Lane?
East Lane was where they, some of it will be off-site, and then they will have some units on-site as well. So I wanted to illustrate some of the units now under construction, because these will be the numbers you will see in that chart with the blue and orange that we went through. These will start showing up in 26 and 2027. This is one that got approved by planning and zoning within the past year, 104, 108, Old Kings Highway North. The demolition of 2 small office buildings, and that will become 2 small apartment buildings, totaling 8 units. You're all familiar with this project, which is across the street from Old Kings Market, corner of Sedgwick Avenue and Old Kings Highway. It's going to be 18 units, hopefully completed later this year. It's coming along. This project, just been approved by the planning and zoning a couple weeks ago, will replace 2 buildings, which were at the corner of Heights and Edgerton. This will be 1 mixed-use building, commercial on the first floor, upper floor 20 units, with parking, will better frame the street, new sidewalks, really transit-oriented because it's across the street from the Darien, or from the Norotan Heights train station, rather. So that should be done next year. This one is also underway behind the residence at Selleck's Woods. This is the replacement of an office building at 3 Parklands Drive. I was out there recently. The foundation is done, and they expect to get the rest of the building done next year. 57 units going in, 6 on-site affordable units. And behind the library, behind the police station, Thorndale Circle, 175 units, 25 on-site deed-restricted affordable units. What you see in this picture is a rendering of what 2 of the buildings will look like. I believe there's 5 buildings, a clubhouse, a pool. But the bottom line is, there's been a lot of multifamily development, and that development will be continuing. You can see Thorndale Circle may not be constructed till early 2028. So we have about 2 more years there.
And that's got 14% affordable,
14% affordable there, 25 out of the 175. Cool. So when we talk about what we're framing for this proposal, which is what we'll call a large development, more than 24 multifamily units, there's 3 of those now under construction in Darien, which I mentioned earlier. Corbin District, which is downtown, 3 Parklands Drive, 57 units, and Thorndale Circle, 175 units. So those are already under construction. They've received all their necessary approvals. They've received their building permits. The moratorium would not apply to those projects. They are through the system, well underway. This moratorium would not apply to those 3 large multifamily projects. It would also not apply to the smaller projects I described earlier, like 104, 108 Old Kings Highway. Since it's only 8 units, it doesn't reach the threshold. So the commission has approved through the years. What I've used for the term, I don't know whether everyone here agrees with the term, let's call it mid-sized by Darien standards, between 10 and 20 units. There's a number of those throughout town. You've all seen them. And certainly the one on Sedgwick, which I just discussed earlier, or Heights Corner, which is the vacant lots now being redeveloped, would fall into that category. So you can see the total number we've approved over the past 20 years is about 93, I'll call it mid-size projects, some of which are about to be implemented. The large projects, which is the projects we want to understand that the moratorium would apply to going forward. The ones in black print are all completed, constructed, have been online for many years. The 3 listed here in this chart in red are currently underway, and you can see the grand totals, 999 units, but about 300, some of those are being constructed as we speak, and will be completed over the next year or 2. So let's talk a minute not only about the various multifamily growth we've seen, but what the need is for this moratorium. What will this 1 year take the commission? What will be going on at the commission level over this year. And the first and foremost, as many of you know and have participated in public sessions, the Planning and Zoning Commission is now working on their town plan of conservation and development. They legally have to update that at least once every 10 years, as required by state statute 8-23. The commission started its work in middle 2024. We are close to the end. We will be meeting nearly every week between now and May to get a draft done. That draft will then have to be referred out to various agencies and bodies for a 2-month review period, and a public hearing is required. We expect that that public hearing will be held in about 6 months from now, in September, if all goes well. So a lot of work on the burden of these volunteers to get that draft plan done, float it out to the community, get input and feedback, and then have a public hearing probably in this room in about 6 months. Secondly, the commission needs to respond and establish zoning regulation amendments as required by House Bill 8002, which was passed by the legislature last year. There's a number of provisions in that bill, the Public Act that was passed, sometimes you call it Public Act 25-1, which the commission needs to act on, especially relative to parking, possibly rezoning some parcels. So there's a lot of sections to that bill. The bill in all was 107 pages long, 53 different sections, some of which apply to planning and zoning commissions, various deadlines within that. Fortunately for us, the various councils of government worked together to summarize the 107-page bill, and that summary just came out a few weeks ago. The summary is just a booklet, basically, which talks about some of the short and midterm implications with some of the effective dates that were established in that statute. Things like dealing with commercial and mixed-use lots, middle housing, establishing parking minimums, maximums, housing growth plans, which we'll talk about in a second. So a few of the many, many provisions. One is regarding middle housing, if you will. Zoning regulations must allow by summary review development of 2 through 9 unit residential buildings, which the statute calls middle housing, or mixed-use developments on any lot zoned for commercial mixed use. Again, the commission's going to have to take a look at that to better understand the various provisions. There are a number of sections related to parking and what the commission can and cannot do relative to parking requirements for certain developments. And as I said, Darien will have to make a decision in early 2027, in about a year from now, whether they will be preparing their own housing growth plan or working with WestCog as part of a regional housing growth plan. And when we talk about housing growth plans, the Capital Region Council of Governments put together a flow chart for us planners to better understand what's involved, the various time frames, and who's responsible for everything. So you can see there was almost too many squares to fit in on one page, and they tried to color code each of them. The light blue are Office of Policy and Management responsibilities up at the state level. Gold color are the responsibilities of the Council of Government, and I'll call it dark green, are the responsibilities of the municipality. These 6 folks here generally. So really it starts this month. The top left says March 2026, where the Office of Policy and Management has to start preparing some documents in consultation with the Department of Housing and Councils of Government. The work continues through late 2026, early 2027, and you can see the arrows indicate that the town will have to make a decision what they want to do relative to their growth plan, which will be due in a few years after that. So there's work to be done relative to that one piece of that state statute, which we'll have to address.
We have the most boxes.
It's interesting that there is some OPM boxes, there's some COG boxes, but just to the naked eye, there's potentially a lot of work for municipalities to do, depending on how they want to proceed. So what would the one-year pause in processing these large multifamily projects allow the commission to do. What are these folks going to be doing in that 1 year? And as I mentioned, of course, completing the Plan of Conservation and Development update. We're underway. We hope to have a final document in draft form in a few months. But until then, we're working with our consultant, H&H, Hardesty and Hanover, on reviewing chapters, getting input and feedback from the commission. For those who are interested, we'll be meeting again next week to discuss the town plan, and the week after that. And then taking a break, and then meeting again a week after that to get this plan done in a timely manner. The commission will also have to work on preparing and adopting zoning changes as required by House Bill 8002, and potentially, we are not sure yet, of course, address any potential legislation which gets passed in the short session of the legislature up in Hartford, which occurs as we speak, and will occur for about another month or so. We don't know what the outcomes or requirements will be, but we have to be prepared for that. And also within the next year, a lot of the projects I showed earlier will be nearing or complete. So that big Dust Bowl in downtown will probably be complete, and they'll be doing internal renovations by then, tenant fit-outs. So let's deal now with some of the questions that folks have asked me and I thought of in terms of better explaining it to you, the public, and to the commission in terms of how will we address this? What are some of the issues and concerns? Yes, as acknowledged, projects that have already been before the commission, received their building permits, are exempt. Next question, what about 830G projects, affordable housing projects as deemed by statute 8-30G, or projects submitted pursuant to House Bill 8002? They will also be exempt because those specific pieces of the state statute really exempt those types of projects. So what happens after a year? What happens whenever the commission, if they do decide to adopt this, they'll establish an effective date? What happens? Can the commission just simply raise their hands and keep extending it? And the answer is no, because the way this regulation is written, such that if the commission wishes to extend it beyond that year, they'll need to come back with another proposal and do what we're doing tonight. Bring it out to the general public, explain the rationale, explain what they've selected, timeframes, etc. So this is 1 year. Are there any projects in the office now that are almost to the commission, but not quite to the commission? And the answer is, as of today, there are no large multifamily projects that are on the agenda or have been submitted to our office that are, I'll call it, in the pipeline to come before this commission. So just a few reminders. It would not apply to 830G projects. It would not apply to House Bill 8002. It would not apply to projects of 24 multifamily units or less. So people can still bring mixed-use projects or other small multifamily projects before the commission. And again, the 1 year deadline is clear in the proposal. I want to mention to those who may not have gone through all the papers in the office, we have received 4 letters for the record. Letter from Reese Hutchinson, letter from the Darien Police Commission, letter from Open Communities Alliance, and a letter from the PZ&H Committee of the RTM. Those are in the record and have been given to the commission members. We're also here tonight to hear from you, the members of the public, about this proposal, what your thoughts are, etc. So we've gone through these, talking about how it will affect the commission, what they do for the next year. Ultimately, because it's a zoning regulation amendment, after tonight, if the commission decides to close the hearing, they'll make a decision at a subsequent meeting, decide if they want to adopt this change. If they do, they'll set an effective date, and if they don't wish to proceed, it doesn't go forward. So with that, that kind of gives a summary. Hopefully I covered all the topics that the commission and the general public are interested in, kind of laying out a little bit of the multifamily history, recent history, and some of the projects that are gone, under construction, and due to be completed shortly. Happy to answer any questions.
I'm going to ask you 2 initial questions. Have other towns done this before? Is the first question. And the second question is, when you say no multi, does that mean you're not accepting applications? Or you can put in an application, and then it gets done.
I'll start with the first question, is anything like this been done before? Certainly, the state statutes are clear that planning and zoning commissions can adopt moratorium on different things. So you may recall that Darien had a moratorium, I think, on cannabis establishments when that first came out. A lot of towns proceeded with that. I was looking online earlier today. Towns have had tattoo parlor moratoriums. Towns have had moratoriums on commercial growth. You may, for some of you who were here, I think it was in the mid-'70s, Darien had a moratorium on office parks for a little while. But yes, the answer is there are a number of communities that in some way, shape, or form, not 830G moratoriums, but moratoriums on other things. Ridgefield had a moratorium kind of related to this, but much more extensive. I believe Newtown has some kind of moratorium, and Trumbull, and maybe even Stratford. This would be, I'll call it the shortest of any of them. This is only 1 year. And this, unlike theirs, which were much broader, this is only on large multifamily developments. Theirs were much broader. So that answers the first question, is clearly allowed by state statutes, and other towns have proceeded with this relative to not only multifamily housing, but other aspects of development.
I did see one in my research for business, self-storage was banned.
There was one in self-storage. I want to say that was...
Shelton or Trumbull?
I want to say Trumbull, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
And Ridgefield had one on commercial development, I believe. So there's quite a few, not quite a few, but a handful out there. Your second question was?
When you say, can you put it in an application, or you're not accepting applications?
I think what we would do is get the word out and not accept the applications.
Okay.
Versus accepting them and just having to sit in an office for a year, because that could lead to some confusion. So we would explain to people that because of the nature of the moratorium, the proposed section 1136 or whatever it is, this is on hold for. Now it could be that it qualifies as an 830G, or it doesn't reach the number of required units or something like that. But so yes, if something came in and it fell through this, we would explain to the applicant that there's currently a moratorium.
Okay,
Yes.
because if you accepted it, then the 65-day clock starts?
One could certainly make that argument, yes.
No, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Jeremy before he jumps? Go ahead. Well,
Amy's there.
ladies first.
In your estimation, in the, how long it took Westcog to create a summary of 8002, and the proposed regulations that we as a commission would need to dive into, adopt, write, hold public hearings, make sure that we were doing it correctly. How long of a workload is that? I'm comparing this to some of the other things we've done, which are much smaller in scope, and then compare it to a larger project like the POCD with the length of, almost a year. It's in addition to all the other things that.
Right. I think that's a great question, because what I would hope is some of the more simple aspects of House Bill 8002, like relative to parking.
Yep.
That if it says that you can't require more than this, but less than this needs to be treated this way, that the theory, at least my theory, would be that Westcog could put together a proposal that basically says to a community, here's a sample wording that you could use or jump off of, use it as a stepping stone to create your own. They could do a model. But some of these you can't, because what they talk about is these parking areas that the town can choose its own acreage and determine where parking regulations would have to apply and not apply. But that's got to be done on a town-by-town basis. You guys know the town better than anybody at Westcog.
I'm equating it to, we review our applications from under a special permit.
Correct.
And under that scenario and structure, we have the ability to dive into things that are important and pertain to that particular application, that property, those neighbors. And now we are going to be tasked with trying to foresee every possible outcome and what would be the ideal best structure for creating a pathway for our commercial projects to become residential. And that's a heavy lift. I often think about the failure to imagine risks. Like 9/11, they never imagined and designed that building to withstand a plane impacting that building, because it was never imagined that that could possibly be an outcome. So when we have special permits, which this commission is trained to do, is look at the discipline of an application, the traffic study, the water remediation for that project. Now we have to kind of do a broad stroke. Am I misinterpreting the task that we will be asked to do?
I think when you get into issues relative to taking commercial property and allowing folks to convert it to residential, I don't know, and each town might, depending on the economics of each community, things might change. You might find a community with not a very strong downtown, very low commercial values, that right now, when residential values are high, you could imagine a lot of buildings being like, oh, this is great, I can just turn that in. I'm concerned that, certainly we want one or two commercial conversions in a downtown area. Okay, that might work. But if you convert, what we've talked about for many years on this commission was coming up with a denser downtown. And we see that, and some people are concerned. We've seen some infill development, what's going on now. We've seen development going off the Post Road into Grove Street, onto Old Kings Highway.
But we're
to come up with
basically going to be charged
a
with trying
vibrant
to create a
downtown.
crystal ball and trying to predict.
Right.
Okay.
Creating regulations
Make sure
that
I'm
would allow
understanding it.
people
The task ahead.
to convert those buildings to the possibility of allowing them to be converted to residential use.
Thank
So
you.
while we don't know how that's going to go, nobody knows.
Yep.
It's
Okay, thank you.
a big change.
John, you want to go next or Adam?
Yeah, let's go down. My question is, specifically, we've heard about the need for more, we'll call it age-restricted housing in town. The question is, if an application that was to be put forth was not under 830G, but was deed restricted for ages, for older people, that would be denied under this moratorium, correct?
If it was,
Not accepted.
if it was more than 25 units,
It would be.
we would not process it.
So-
If it's less than 25 units,
It would be.
it would come before the commission.
So the deed restriction by age is unrelated to this?
That's
As long
correct.
as it's not an 830G,
Correct.
then it would just, doesn't matter.
For 1 year.
And for 1 year. So not that, we've seen that there's obviously no applications in the, outstanding for any of that. But that's just my concern is, that seems to be a soft spot where we have for a housing need in this town. And that might be the type of project we might want to include as a carve-out or for future consideration. So,
That's fine. Yeah, I mean, this is a public hearing, we can debate that at any time.
yeah.
George?
As we all know, the Planning, Zoning, and Housing Committee has suggested that, 12 months would be good, 18 months might be better. How say ye?
It's a good question, George. I was at that PZ&H meeting, and it was, many of the folks in the meeting are here today. One thing I've thought of since that meeting, which came up, if you, this is a zoning regulation amendment. It's being put forth like this. If you were to broaden the proposal, which in my opinion, to broaden it would be to have it apply for either a longer time or to more people by potentially lowering the threshold or lengthening the amount of time. In my opinion, it would have to be re-noticed, republished, re-referred, because some people who might not be here tonight say, oh, it's only a year, or it only applies to 25 units and over. So while there was a lot of great conversation that evening with a lot of good arguments made, to change it, the commission will have to weigh the pros and cons of renoticing it, having another public hearing on a modified proposal. But it was,
Could we change it in deliberations?
You could also pass it and then change it a year from now. It's like changing a setback.
you could do that with those,
Say if
that
it's
would be one
25.
option, is to say, okay, for 1 year, let's try this. And then, as I said, we can come back in this room in a year from now and put together another proposal and explain the justification or rationale.
You can change it 2 months from now.
You'd have to float another
Right.
zoning regulation amendment.
Not to hijack George's time here, but would the ZBA be able to override this in some sort of variance, like for a setback, let's say, from, as an analogy?
I would say no, because there would be no hardship. Hardships for zoning boards of appeals can only be related to a piece of land, and it
Yep.
cannot be personal or financial. The fact that you would be coming for a variance to build something,
Yeah.
I would not be able to envision a rationale that someone could give to get the ZBA to circumvent this. It would be hard pressed.
You can't get a variance on new construction either.
You can, depending on the circumstances.
Sure you
Little
can.
tough.
I have. Our regulations require to go in front of the ZBA, even if everything conforms. If you have a non-conforming lot,
Not with-
it's not wide enough, it's not big enough, you have to go through ZBA, even if everything else conforms.
I'm mistaken.
Sorry, George.
I would just comment that at some point there will be a motion on the table to be seconded and to be discussed and then acted upon. At some point, an amendment to that motion, it seems to me, according to the Roberts rules, would be in order. Now, I see we have at least 3 very prominent attorneys here, and we probably have 3 different opinions on that subject, but maybe a discussion with our own town council would be fruitful to at least answer the question and have that available.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If we decide not
Always
to do
come
it.
prepared to the meetings is the motto, yes.
Cool. Good. John, Sini?
So this is my second stint, as many of you know, here, and I was just looking at the pace of which the approvals occurred since my stint on P&Z in 2013 and 2019. During that 6-year period, 2013, 2019, this commission approved just over 400 units. And then if I look at just the last 6 years, so 2020 through 2026, which Jeremy has outlined, there's been a pretty big acceleration, 676 units post-COVID, if you will. So I look at this from a reasonable standard in terms of this town has, over the last 25 or 26 years that I've lived here, there's been an enormous shift in terms of the diversity of housing that's been approved by this commission, all the way back, I think Fred's back there, under his commission. And so, but I look at the numbers, and again, being guilty of approving over 400 units.
Not guilty, you're proud.
Guilty meaning, that's not always bad work.
Okay.
But approving over 400 units and then seeing the impact it's had in the town, and then over the years, additional units coming on. I think it's just common sense that we'd want to take a breather here, understand what the impact is of what's still being built, what's been approved, and then on top of the town plan of conservation development and on top of the regulatory changes, I think it's, I'm just saying, I think it's pretty reasonable to take a break. Jeremy, I think one other town, you mentioned Ridgefield, Trumbull, I think Brookfield also had a similar.
That was the one I was missing, yes.
So my question to you, Jeremy, is when you had town council look at the legality or the appropriateness of taking a moratorium like this, what were the sensitivities that you've kind of written into the regulatory proposal here?
There's a couple of things that were, town council and I agreed were super important to have included. First and foremost, a very clear time frame of whatever it is. In this case, we chose a year.
Can you put this back up on the screen?
Yeah, I don't have that on the screen, actually.
The actual.
I don't think we have that, which is the actual wording of the proposal, which is, but,
You want to paraphrase that for us?
sure, I can.
Here you go. Because, I mean, I saw one for another town, which was like a page and a half. Yours is a third of a page.
So, yes, to answer John's question, and we'll talk about this, the proposed section of the regulations specifically has those words in it, which is, what are the requirements, the length of time that's being put forth. So it says, this temporary moratorium shall only apply from its effective date as determined by the Planning and Zoning Commission for a period of 1 year. The other point that council mentioned is being clear that it does not automatically renew. You just can't come to a meeting one night, raise your hand and say, we're still going on this, guys, let's keep going. Nope, that's very clear that that is not allowed here in section 1136C. And it very clearly says, any desire by the Planning and Zoning Commission to pursue a subsequent temporary moratorium beyond the time frame shall require a subsequent standalone application to modify the zoning regulations. The other thing, John, is 1136A, specifically stating that the proposal shall not apply to development proposals sanctioned by conflicting state statutes such as 830G or House Bill 8002. Did talk about, as part of the application, we discuss, if you will, what the point is, what are you going to be doing within the next year. A lot of towns do tie it to the plan of conservation and development because as volunteers, it's a heavy lift that occurs over a 2-year time frame. So those were the 3 items we discussed relative to making sure they're in the regulation and clear as part of the presentation tonight.
So, Steve, I'll just end by saying, I look back to 2000 and our multi-dwelling unit numbers probably represented low single digits of total households. Right now, I think we have close to 7,500 households, and if you play this forward with the additional construction over the next 3 years, we're probably looking anywhere between as high as 15% of our household units being multi-dwelling units, or, somewhere between 10 and 15, depending on how you count this. I'm not even counting the assisted living facilities either. So, it's been a huge change, and I think a lot of it's come quickly, and I think it's more than warranted to just take a year breather and understand as this is built the impacts on the community, on the school district, a number of other items.
Thank you. Jamie, you have any questions?
Yep. Is there a definition, a state definition of large multifamily housing? I know it was mentioned in the RTM PCNH letter too, but when the state passed 8002, I'm not sure that they had defined it previously, but you can tell me if I'm wrong.
No, it's a good question. When the state passed that bill, they talked in a certain section of it regarding 16 units, things greater than 16, things less than 16, relative to units being put forth. There is no definition in the state statutes of what I've called large single family. I've just chosen that as the right adjective. It seems like, now again, large is all perspective, but some of the projects we ran through earlier, which shows through time the various, again, tough to read, but they range in size. We see Grove Street Plaza was just a handful of units. The Thorndale Circle is very big, but Avalon is the biggest at 189 units, and they range from 2-3 units all the way to 189. So I took large as kind of, what would that be? Heights Corner, which was just approved by the commission, is 20. So that kind of gave me a good breaking point of a little bigger than that as kind of guidelines. But there is no state statute or definition on what large is. Good question.
But you didn't include the Danny's Bicycle Shop and the Post Road one. That's another 13 units.
Yeah, it's in here.
It's probably in there, right?
Yeah, it's up 1897 Post Road. It's 4 units plus or minus, so it's in there. There's probably a way to zoom in on this a little bit, but the list keeps growing here, so if few years ago, this list fit very nicely on one page.
You good, Jamie?
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, good. The only thing that I want to add is a couple things. I did read someplace that was some online where it said this is a ban on multifamily housing. That's 100% incorrect. I don't know who wrote that, but it's not a ban on any multifamily housing at all. It's a pause on what Jeremy said was basically taking applications for a year. The other thing with regards to timelines, this town and this commission doesn't do anything quickly. Our multifamily residential project timeline is probably averages more than 2 years from, I would say, I think you say cradle to grave is pretty much it. Heights Corners, which is the most recent one that was approved by us, it was put on the market in 2024 by Cushman & Wakefield, which is a competitor that I know very well with. That piece of land sold in July of 2025. They just got their approvals last month, and that's the approvals from the day they bought it and closed on it was 9 months, and it was on the market, and they had plans in advance of that for a year. So that's basically 12 plus 9 is I think it's 21. My math is correct. Heights Crossing, which is effectively stabilized. They still didn't lease up all the retail space. Milkshake Factory should open when the weather breaks, because it's obviously a milkshake factory. It's going to be an ice cream store. They have not leased one of their units. They are the commercial units. That application started pre-COVID. That's 2020. It was approved prior to 2020. They started demo in 2020. It's effectively finished, like I said, but that's 6 years ago. We can talk about the Corbin District and Darien Commons. Darien Commons, which is the old Stop and Shop, and Walgreens, which is now a booming shopping center with 122 units. That took 15 years. The zoning was changed to allow for that development. By the time the zoning code was changed, to the time they finished and stabilized, it was 15 years. That's a long time. There's another project that has been floating out there for a while, and the building actually recently sold. It's an office building on Tokenique Road. That building just sold earlier this month, on March 3rd. It's an office building that is zoned office. It does fall into the potential, what's called multifamily overlay, design overlay zone, which is the same as the other one. That property was put on the market, soft market, effectively in mid 2021. That's 5 years ago. It was put on a contract for sale in mid 2025, which is almost a year ago. It's sold this year. The tenant in that building is going to stay there for at least a year. So if anybody wanted to redevelop that property in any way, shape, or form, because Zotos is a division of Hinkle. If you ever drive down I-95, you look up, there's that big green glass building. It says Hinkle on the side. That's Zotos. They've got about 200,000 square feet inside that building, and they can easily move the people that are in this building to that building. But they did sell it, but they're going to stay there for a year. So in terms of timing that we're talking about, a year is effective. It's effectively a long time, but we don't do anything fast in this town. A year goes
You would
by
be hard
blink of an
pressed
eye.
to hire an architect to develop house plans, do your drainage studies, do your environmental.
Traffic
and get
studies
your,
usually take the longest, 'cause they can only be done certain times a year.
An application approved for one house. So in the terms of longevity, a year moratorium for this commission to sort through some very, very important matters is not a long time.
Great. I think you got to put things in perspective. I remember when Parklands was developed and started, Attorney Hennessy sitting right here, I got to believe that was pre-COVID. I don't remember. And the sad part about it, the developer that originally put forth the project passed away. You know, it takes so long in this town, and for not any real reason, because there are state statutes that say you have to get through the application process and started and ended in 65 days and 35 days and 40 days, which is 120 days, 130 days altogether. That's about a half a year, but with extensions and whatnot, it takes a long time. I mean, I remember the 3 Parklands project, they went through the zoning study, the traffic study for months, the zoning, wetland study, the site study for months, then they actually ended up getting sued or appealed by the neighbors, and that knocked them back a long time. So when you talk about a year in our town, it's nothing gets built overnight. So to me, that's a big thing. We can debate the size of where this line might come down, and I respect Jeremy's opinion relative to that. I would like to hear from the chairman of the Planning Housing Committee, Ms. Abbott, if she would like to speak. In her letter, which I think was very well written, talks about what the RTM constituents want. I mean, that's how we serve. You know, I do something, I can get voted out in a heartbeat, which is fine. I mean, I love my job here, and I think it's a lot of fun. But you know, we're all elected officials and whatnot. I do want to just mention a couple things. I don't think Mr. Hutchinson's here today. He's a member of the Darien Sewer Commission. I think
he did write the letter as an individual.
He wrote the letter as an individual, and it does not give an opinion. I think his letter, which is dated March 18th, is super factual. He's been a gentleman that's been on the Sewer Commission for over 8 years, or about 8 years. They're working on all kinds of stuff in the Sewer Commission to make sure our town has capacity. You know, I think they have their arms around it. I know when 7 Cedric, which is now called 1 Cedric, which is also known as Darien Lofts, is that the new name?
Cedric Lofts.
Cedric Lofts. That ran into big problems at the time because there was not enough sewer capacity in that area. And they had to go through a sewer study that I think the applicant paid for, the town paid for, or maybe they passed it to be able to see if that area can do that. I'd also just
I believe in the Sewer Commission that study was done incorrectly. So it wasn't that there was no capacity, it was that the study was, the first time around, was done incorrectly.
Okay.
So there's always been capacity there.
But I think at the end of the day, there was capacity for 1 more or 18 or something like that? I know it got passed, and they didn't do some $12,000 study.
Yeah, there was an error in the study initially that said there was no capacity.
Got it.
But I think there is now.
Okay.
Or there always has been.
Then the only other letter I'd just like to touch on was the Police Commission. I love the Police Commission. I don't see the Chief of Police here.
Chief wasn't able to attend tonight. I did speak to him earlier today.
Okay.
But I did acknowledge that we received his letter. It was uploaded to the portal, put into the hard copy. The commission members have received the letter, and it's part of the record in this manner.
I think, just to paraphrase the Police Commission's letter, which is drafted by or signed by Brent Hayes, who's a commissioner, they would just like more data to be able to assess what's going on. The Police Commission, I think, speaks for Post 53, the Fire Department, and the Police Department, because when an alarm goes off, all 3 of those people go, you know, and they keep data on that. And, you know, if they need to hire more people, when all these things get done, they need to hire more people. It's just a fact of life. So, I mean, I think that Jeremy and staff and council did a great job in doing research and doing this stuff. I think it's a great proposal the way it's worded, and I would urge the commission to keep pushing the ball forward and go from there.
For the public.
Does anybody else want to speak to this at all?
Public.
Okay. Would anybody in the general public like to speak to this application? Mrs. Appplikakis, welcome. Ms. Appplikakis, sorry.
This way's probably the best. Just watch your step.
Welcome.
Hi, good evening.
State your name and affiliation for the record.
Yes, my name is Amy Zavatakis. I am a town resident. I'm here in my capacity as chair of the Planning, Zoning, and Housing Committee of the RTM. So first, want to thank the commission for the work that they are doing on this and the work that they've been doing on everything else, frankly, that's going on right now. I wanted to respond to Commissioner Barsanti's questions about COG and House Bill 8002. We had Francis Pickering, who's the executive director of COG, come to speak to the PZ&H at our March 5th meeting. And if you haven't actually had Francis come in and speak with you, or Mr. Pickering come in and speak with you, I would recommend you consider watching that meeting. He did go through House Bill 8002 and what it means for the towns, and really laid out a lot of the regulation changes that need to be considered. And he's obviously a wealth of information, and I found that meeting to be very helpful and really laid the groundwork for our committee's second meeting, which was a special meeting on March 19th. Where we talked specifically about this proposed moratorium. Basically, our committee has been following the POCD. We're looking forward to getting involved with giving you our thoughts on the draft when that becomes available, but we are aware of the additional burden that that's put on this committee. In order to comply with House Bill 8002, you've got some more work ahead of you. I'm sorry?
You think so, huh?
I think so. And then there's also just the regular day-to-day work of applications that, those of us who are attorneys would like to see moving along as well. I think that the moratorium is a good idea. This was the unanimous opinion of our committee, that taking a breather to, give you some time to work on those other items, and also to, as has been discussed, see how the approved multifamily housing, how that's absorbed into the fabric of town. I'm aware that this commission does a lot of work to put in conditions into approvals that hopefully will ameliorate concerns about traffic, and we haven't seen some of those really go into effect yet. So I think once we have a little time to take a breather, absorb all that, we'll have a better sense going forward of what makes sense for the town. And, again, what conditions should be in the regulations for multifamily going forward. As has been discussed, one of the things that our committee did discuss was the number of units where this moratorium starts. As was discussed in House Bill 8002, there's some discussion of parking where the state seemed to look at more than 16 as requiring certain parking considerations, less than 16 different parking considerations. Interestingly, 16 isn't addressed at all in the state statute. So we very specifically said we would recommend that the commission consider more than 15 being the cutoff point for large multifamily housing. And again, just so that there's a little bit of consistency with the state regulations, I think to respond to the question about being able to, needing to renotice the meeting, I do recommend that you speak with the town attorney about that. I'm not sure I agree with that position. I think that very often this commission does amend proposals, whether they're put forward by applicants or by the town, and I think this would be an appropriate amendment. The other item that our committee discussed, and I will note that this was not unanimous, was the length of time. There was a minority that felt that 12 years was the appropriate amount. There were some people that thought 2 years would be better. the sort of compromise was recommending 18 months. And again, that really just has to do with what we've discussed before as far as what is on the commission's plate right now with the POCD and responding to HB 8002. Just wanting to make sure that the commission takes the time to get, if we're gonna do this moratorium, let's use that time wisely and make sure that the planning and zoning regulations that will need to be amended are done thoughtfully and are right. So that's the summary of the PZ&H meeting. I'm happy to answer if there are any other questions from any other members of the commission.
Good. Anyone ask Amy any questions? We're good? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Zagrazzi, would you like to speak, sir? I'm just going to ask the town official, which is Mr. Zagrazzi, to speak first. Thank you. Could you state your name and affiliation, please?
My name and affiliation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is John Zagrazzi. I'm the first selectman for the town of Darien. I'm mindful of the need for this moratorium. I think the points have been well articulated by Jeremy and as well as by the commissioners through their questions. The idea of a pause to allow what has been a non-trivial amount of development in town seems not just to make sense, but to resonate with most residents with whom I speak. I think further, and perhaps more importantly, is that 8002 has a number of pretty important provisions with regard to changes in regulations, a number of which go into effect July 1st. And if we don't have the town's regulations caught up, if you will, that's going to be problematic. So what this moratorium is going to do is going to allow the commission to take the time to develop those regulatory changes on our zoning rules. And getting that done right, I think, is going to be pretty important so that when we do open things back up a year from now, the commission has time to sort through all this and can confirm that their zoning regulations meet the requirements through 8002. So I know that this has required a tremendous amount of work on everyone's part, but I think for the good of the town, as well as the good of this body and the work that they do to ensure that our zoning regulations are up to speed and aligned with what the requirements of this new legislation are, I think the moratorium is a good idea. It's well structured, it's of the appropriate length and sized in the right way. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak to this application? Mr. Hennessy?
I'll make some very brief comments.
Sure. Just take your name and affiliation, and do you have you live in Stamford, right?
Pardon me?
You live in Stamford?
I do.
So do you have a client in town?
I do.
Fantastic.
And you've already mentioned my client. But for the record, I'm William Hennessy. I'm an attorney with the firm of Carnby, Torrance, Sandak, and Hennessy, and I practice out of our Stamford office as well as living there. I'm here tonight on behalf of Bellpoint Capital, which is the recent purchaser of 100 Tokenique Road, the property.
Did they flip it? It's not in their name.
It's a SPE, but yeah, they own it, they control it. And to those of you who aren't familiar with them, they're a significant real estate asset holder, manager, developer throughout Connecticut, Florida. There's a big asset class, and some mid-Atlantic states as well. They're currently under construction at 3 Parklands, which they bought from the former owner applicant, Bob Gillen and his group, after Bob passed away. That project's under construction, 57 units. It's been before this commission several times. I think you're all familiar with it. And it's scheduled for completion late 27, early 28, should see some occupancy there. 100 Tokenique Road is currently developed, as you had mentioned, with an office building a little over 50 years old, 80,000 feet. You're right about the tenant. You're right about what I assume to be the roof count and everything going on there. They'll be there another year or so, and then they'll be moving on. So my client's position, and the reason they bought the property, is to reposition it. It's ripe for redevelopment. The market's telling them that the right move is to look at multifamily. It's ideally located, in their view, within easy driving distance of an interchange at I-95, walking distance to the downtown, and the point of the downtown where the railroad station is. It's a good site. For that reason, having closed, as you noted, less than a month ago. They're not excited about the fact of the moratorium being adopted, and it looks like it will tonight. But they also know enough about everything this commission's done over the last, I'm going to call it 6-7 years, in terms of the thought, energy, study, analysis that's gone on about what to do with certain kinds of assets, real estate assets that involved obsolete office projects mostly, and they're very aware of the work that Fred and Jeremy did with us at Parklands, and really just analyzing all of the I guess we called it the DOR zone at the time, the DOR office parks, before the regulation was adopted that allowed for Parklands and Thorndale and those projects to be built. And the expectation is that the projects will be executed in a way that makes the community very proud. They'll be excellent communities for people to live. We think that work is going, as it's ongoing, is turning out well, and the end result will be really terrific. And my client's frankly deferential and respectful of a town that takes its development protocols that seriously. So for that reason, they asked me to come here and tell you that they understand that, and they aren't going to challenge a moratorium, they aren't going to argue against a moratorium, they aren't going to fight a moratorium, they're going to abide by the moratorium, and that's what they intend to do. Having said that, they do ask that I share with you that that property at 100 Tokenique is a complicated property. It's got issues that are separate from zoning that are going to influence what can be built there and how big it can be and how it's frankly constructed. There's floodline issues, there's wetland issues, there's sewer capacity issues, there's traffic issues, there's a bunch of things. So while this moratorium is going on, they intend to study some of those things. You may hear about the activities going on with regard to those things. You may even hear of applications going on. And they don't want that to be interpreted in any way as an affront to what you're trying to do, to your analysis at all. And they asked me to make that point. So if that happens, feel free to let your staff know, and we'll be happy to come and tell you about, you know, what we're trying to do. And finally, and maybe most importantly, and this, Ms. Barsanti, you used the phrase, the task ahead, right? My clients have a certain, this might sound a little arrogant, but a certain understanding of real estate development, experience in real estate development, insight into real estate development, and to the extent that any of that could help you in your task ahead, you should feel free to ask staff to ask us to help you. My client's ethos is to work as a partner with the communities they're in. They've had that experience with Parklands. They expect to have that same experience, and they will endeavor to have that same experience with regard to Tokenique, so we're here to help. I will just say one thing regarding the length of time for the moratorium. You know, I've been around the block long enough to know that the action item at the end of a task is going to expand to whatever time you give it, right? If you said it was a 5-year moratorium, the last 30 days would be frantic, right? If it's a 1-year moratorium, that kind of feels right to me. It makes some sense to me. If it's not quite enough time, there's a way to extend it, and you'll know that before the final couple of months. But I would start there. I would encourage you to start there because this is important stuff. And if it extends too long, and this is no way, don't take this wrong, but if it extends too long, then the development community is going to be in a position where some external forces might force it to do stuff, and it can't wait. And it's going to produce stuff you don't want. It's going to produce things and hearings before you that don't make any sense because they aren't right or they aren't as good as could be. So we would encourage you to keep nose to the ground. It's not just us, but I would say the development community in general is going to be very generous in sharing information. We're happy to come here anytime, give whatever you need to staff, and help this thing move as quickly as it can. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate the offer also. He represents a lot of good clients, builds a lot of good stuff. Would anybody else like to speak to this application? Anything we're missing, Jeremy?
No, nothing further to add, so the question then, if there's no other speakers, is does the commission want to continue the hearing or close the hearing? Really is what it comes down to.
We have no more discussion from anybody else?
Motion to close.
Motion to close on the table. Is there a second? Second? There's your answer.
Oh, we need a vote.
All those in favor?
Okay, so the hearing's closed and the commission will deliberate this at an upcoming meeting.
Jamie, you voted yes to close too?
Yes.
Okay. 6-0. All righty. Great. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Land Filling and Regrading Application number 600, also known as PL 26-21. Matthew and Jennifer Woodbury at 17 Harbor Road. Proposal to construct a new pool, spa, patios, walkways, and associated retaining at the rear of the property and reconfigure the existing driveway and front walkway and to perform related site development activities within regulated areas, including the installation of stormwater management and regrading of the property. The 1.08 plus or minus acre subject property is located on the south side of Harbor Road, approximately 620 feet southwest of its intersection with Rings End Road, and is shown on Assessor's Map number 51 as Lot 13 in the R1 zone. Fred, what do we got?
This is an application for a new in-ground pool in the rear yard of the property. The existing pool will be demolished and replaced with a 16 by 32 foot pool, a 7 by 7 foot spa, and approximately 1,700 square feet of hardscape area. The applicant proposes to import roughly 450 cubic yards of fill or material to the site to create a more level yard area, which will be supported by a roughly 120-foot retaining wall on the property. The amount of fill being brought onto the site is what has triggered this application under Section 850 of the Darien Zoning Regulations under our land filling and regrading regulations. The application was referred out to Joe Canis of Ty and Bond. Mr. Canis submitted comments for the record dated February 20th and most recently today, March 24th, noting no additional comments on the application. The application was also referred out to the building official, Mike Vitti. Mr. Vitti submitted an email for the record dated February 17th, noting no issue with the application. Bill Romanella is here this evening from Hoffman Landscape, representing the applicant. He's going to present the application to you and answer any questions you may have.
Fantastic. Thank you. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, come on.
Come on, here is probably easier, so you get your smiling face on TV. There's your camera right there, so there's your 15 minutes of fame.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Just state your name and affiliation for the record.
My name is Bill Romanello. I work with Hoffman Landscapes. I think Fred said it pretty clearly that we're looking to demolish a existing freeform pool.
Speak up a little bit and let your microphone.
Okay. We are looking to demolish a existing free-form pool at our client's property and install a new rectilinear pool. The two main purposes for that are one, safety with the automatic safety cover on a rectilinear pool, as well as creating a little bit more level lawn space because the rear yard in that property is quite tight the way it's laid out now. And as Fred stated, we are going to be building a gravity boulder wall to retain some grade to help level the rear yard.
Okay, and that's, where's all the cut and fill coming from? you're leveling out the whole thing?
Yeah.
Talk about the Caltech system a little bit too, please.
Okay, yes, we are importing, the engineer's calculations were about 450 cubic yards of fill material, and there's going to be 2 separate drainage systems, one in the back to collect the rear yard runoff, and one in the front to collect the changes from the front, because there is some additional driveway and walkway.
Because you're making the new driveway a lot bigger with the parking court and whatnot?
Correct, yes, they wanted some additional guest parking.
Got a bigger pool, you got bigger pool courts.
It's actually a smaller pool, I think.
Okay. What else? And then the retaining wall, you're just putting in boulders, so it's not really an engineered wall?
No, it's not an engineered wall. Rob Frangione has it graded out at 3 feet tall.
But the elevation change between the high and the low is about 6 feet, right?
Correct, yeah. There's a slope between the level area of the lawn and the top of the wall that drops down, lowering the height of the wall.
So is that's legit, Jeremy? The reading sign?
Yes, building official make a final determination on what structural certifications need to be done.
Because the rock walls, that's the kind of thing they just stick the boulders there, right? Pretty boulders and make it look natural?
Yeah. Was that a question for me?
No, it's really
Okay.
It goes from 97 at the pool side, and then the back side is lower. So it's gonna, the rock wall would fall back there. And I guess for you, sir, do you know how many trees are taken out?
There is, I believe it is the 8 evergreen trees adjacent to the pool, and there's 1 tree in the southeastern corner of the lot that's being removed as well.
And do you know how many trees you're putting in?
We don't have a final count on trees.
You're a landscaping dude, man. You want to sell more trees.
I know. We haven't done that part of it. They do want to reestablish the screening both for themselves and their neighbors. Our primary focus thus far was the masonry of it.
Great. I mean, there's no real set law on trees coming out and trees going in, but it's usually greater than 1-to-1, depending. But looking on these 2 things, it looks like some of those trees are not being taken out. See, you have a plan, right? Which trees are coming out, you know?
Yeah, all of these trees, and then, yeah.
And then something over here?
There's one.
The driveway's over here.
That one.
That's just dead?
That's a dead ash tree, yes.
Yeah, dead, right.
The letter,
Infected and stuff, right?
yeah, letter's in there.
Great. Okay. And so now these are all new trees here?
No, those are old trees that are being removed.
Okay. They usually put X's on them, right?
Yeah.
So we know what's coming.
S2 shows the trees to be removed.
What's that?
S2 shows the trees to be removed.
Okay. Yeah, oh, got it. Sorry, man. Yeah, okay. Right, it looks pretty, how many truckloads we saying 400 cubic yards or 480 cubic yards is? 20 trucks?
Yeah, about 20.
And then what's your time frame for that? You're not having 20 in one day, or, two a day, 2 a week?
Yeah, it's not 20 in one day. It'll probably be 2 a week seems low. We'll probably, it depends on how fast we can build the wall. It goes by foot and soil availability, so I'd say probably 3 weeks total to get the fill to where it needs to be.
And you're not really using any of the, you said the pool's smaller, so you're not really gaining.
Yeah, that's why
Recycle.
Yeah, so
It's gotta come in.
yeah.
Okay, got it. We pass it along. Anybody want to go on this one first?
Me.
You, Adam? Jamie, you okay?
Yeah, thank you.
George? You said okay?
I'll just
Adam?
note again, Joe Candace signed off on this, so I think it's fine for me.
Okay.
Agreed.
Amy, fine? Okay, and then what's this, the letter from Town of Darien, that's Joe Candace's letter?
New format.
I do like his new
If you're
format.
watching, Joe, good format.
You gave him kudos. Okay. Would anybody in the general public like to speak to this application? Come on, Mike, you gotta say something. No, you good? All right. You miss anything?
Nope, you got it.
Okay. Entertain a motion to close? Amy makes a motion, Adam makes a second, all in favor? 6-0. You're closed. We'll debate it next week, I think, or the week after, I think.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I can't debate tonight because I gotta get back to work. Alrighty, cool. Is that that's the end of the public hearing? Now we're going to the general meeting. First item on the general meeting deadline, agenda is business site plan application number 54B as in boy, special application, special permit, and special permit, also known as PL 25-143, Santa Realty LLC, at 805 Boston Post Road. Proposal to raise the existing gas station and associated service building and redevelop the property with a motor vehicle service station and 6 self-service fueling pumps and an associated 2,800 square foot convenience store and on-site parking. The public hearing closed on February 3rd, 2026, and the decision deadline is April 8th, 2026. In our packets, we got a draft resolution. Did anybody have any question, comments, typos, scrivener's errors in this one?
I asked Jeremy about this earlier, about the wording in the approval for ZBA versus what was in our resolution, our draft resolution. I don't know, Jeremy, did you have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, and I explained to Jamie on the phone, I said, the Darien Zoning Regulations, because there has not been a new gas station built in Darien since 1995, which is a period of over 30 years, the regulations are a little difficult to work with. There is a specific provision in the regulations in the section 1100s, which talks about automobile service stations is the definition. And part of the confusion here is you have an automobile service station, which is now on the property, but also a gas station on the property now, both of which are non-conforming uses. They're looking to, I'll call it, gently expand the gas station use, whether it's by, you consider the expansion to be a bigger canopy or one more pump station. If you want to call it an expansion, that's what the ZBA approved. And they will be eliminating the other nonconformity, which is the service repair.
Right, that's stated inside the resolution. It's reducing the nonconformity.
Right, of
the
that,
overall
and then
project.
ZBA granted a variance for the gas station to expand. I just can't put my finger on it. But Jamie's
That's right
correct,
there. It's
the wording in the
number two.
regulations is, could be done differently or better, but it comes up just so rarely in Darien. We'll have to get around to that one day.
Okay, I just wanted to double check because it was, non-conforming use structure that ZBA used.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry,
It says it
vehicle use structure.
in paragraph 2, it talks about the commission finds that the proposed improvements for mitigation of existing motor services and the associated service building rear site, and the maintenance of the 6 fueling station positions. The overall reduction in pervious surface on site combined with it represents an overall reduction in the non-conformity use of the property. The commission also acknowledges that the ZBA on July 24th issued a variance for the reduction in setbacks, number of parking spaces, increase in non-conformity use related to both the size of the canopy, the overall fuel pumps, and number of pumps. We have approved in the past, there's 2 gas stations in town that do not have canopies, or maybe it's just one.
There's one, Valero, on 1927 Boston Post Road.
Yeah, and we approved their installation of a canopy on that thing. They ended up not building it, but they did get approval to add a canopy. So in this instance, if you're making the canopy bigger or putting in a brand new one, It's the same exact premise relative to that. The Architecture Review Board did approve it. The LTA reviewed it. We made a lot of changes. The applicant made a lot of changes for the LTA, what they asked. That was on the traffic report. The LTA also said that if the business operation may require the owner to implement additional traffic controls measures, unforeseen arise, that they do have to go back to the LTA at some point, maybe in its future life. That's pretty much standard for everything. What else did I pick up in here? The Hardesty Hanover, our traffic consultant, said that their concerns were all addressed in the application, was acceptable to the traffic circulations and parking standpoint. They are closing one of the curb cuts along the post road. They're going to make the new replacement single one a little bit bigger. The ZBA approved their resolution to make them to go to 10 parking spaces. We as a Planning Zoning Commission, that's talked about in number 25, we brought it back to 12 parking spaces, which is in compliance with the zoning code based upon the size of the building. And in addition to those parking spaces up front, there's also parking spaces that are at the pumps, which that can be debated. There's 10 or 12 of those. What else? We reduced in letter O as in Ovani. We reduced, you like that, right?
That was a good one.
Oops, sneak that in there. The Commission hereby requires a reduction of the building by 400 square feet from the 2,800 that's listed in the legal notice down to 2,400. And then they're going to put in 2 more parking spaces really for employee parking. That's basically going to be behind where the loading space is for daily deliveries. Again, it's branded as a standard convenience store. It doesn't say it in here, but the gas, I'm 99.9% sure it's going to be Shell gas station, which is there today. Hours of operation, closes every single day, 7 days a week, at 9 p.m. at night. So it's not 24 hours. It's not going to be open late. If they want to change that, they're going to come back to us. What else? No left turns coming out of the property at all. There's going to be I call it a Jersey barrier, but it's not really a Jersey barrier. It's a big thing where you can't even make a left. So even the tractor trails are definitely going to go right when they come out of there, which is track trailers, the fuel trucks. And they can only fill the tanks between, if I'm reading this right, it's limited to 10 p.m. at night, 4 o'clock in the morning?
Yes, they acknowledged during the hearing that it would be after the gas station is closed.
Right. We're not going to, and if the gas station closes at 9, then they can bring in the fuel trucks at 10. The applicant told us that their fueling depot comes from Bridgeport down I-95. They'll probably get off at exit 13, go to the property, swing around, and then go back either at exit 10 or swing and go back to exit, I don't know if it's 11 or not. We're not putting any restrictions on the smaller trucks, which is the Frito-Lay trucks and the Pepsi trucks and the beer trucks that bring in the stuff, or the bread trucks. But there is a dedicated parking spot for them. So I didn't see anything that was outstanding or missing in this thing. Anybody else have any comments or errors or typos? No? Okay. So with that said, I would entertain a motion to approve as drafted. John makes a motion, looking for a second. George makes a second. All in favor? Jamie, John, George approve. Any of those opposed? Adam and Amy Barcenti opposed. So the resolution passes
4-2.
4-2. All righty, that one's done. Next item up for bid on this application. Deliberations only on any public hearings closed on March 4th. Do we want to talk about this house at the pool on the 17th
Yeah.
Harbor?
Straightforward.
Everyone's good with that?
Yeah, no issues with that. Very straightforward.
Can you draft a positive resolution of approval on the pool at 17 Harbor Road?
Yep, staff to draft an approval. No issues.
My only chairman's report tonight is I have to get back home so I can do more appraisal work, so I can go back to work. Let's go. So there's none of that. Director's report, anything you want to add, Jeremy?
Nothing to add.
Fantastic. The next thing we have are approval of minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes in our packet. February 24th, March 3rd, and March 10th. Let's do February 24th first. It was a POCD night to start out. Any typos, scrivener's errors in this one that anybody caught? Pretty good.
I had one change.
Fantastic. Go ahead, hit me.
Mrs. Ionic said, or Ms. Ionic said, anyway, she said the busing is expensive but could be reduced.
What page is that on?
First.
Don't you hate that when someone quotes you wrong?
What's that?
The section is school-related.
Busing is expensive, but could be.
I wasn't suggesting it be reduced, I'm not sure the words I used, but I was suggesting more busing would improve the flow of traffic, but it was expensive and that was difficult to do. So somebody that's...
Can you get that change?
No.
What do you want to say?
What do you want to say?
I just,
Right now it says, she said that housing is expensive, but
Busing.
that
said that busing
busing,
is expensive.
but could be reduced. Does that mean the cost of the busing?
No.
No.
I think that's...
I was saying it would be difficult to increase the busing.
You want to just strike the sentence?
That's fine.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you saying it, but let's strike the sentence. I think that's the easiest way to resolve this. Thank you. Good
Okay.
point.
Anybody else? Okay. Enter a motion to approve as edited. Amy makes a motion. Jamie makes a second. All in favor?
I'm going to abstain.
5 to 0 to 1 abstention from Mr. Sini. Next item up for bid, March 3rd, minutes. That's when we appointed Mr. John Sini. Well, I got a typo. You spelled John Sini wrong.
No way.
J-O-H, you made him Jonathan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Have you two met?
Yeah. I'll give you a nameplate, Sini.
I thought maybe.
You became French, I think.
Sorry about that.
Well, he doesn't.
Throw Junior in there, because my dad always...
Yes.
For that.
Oh, nice, okay.
He's always running with the junior.
You got it.
All right, that's a typo. Anybody else catch anything else on this one?
Motion.
Okay. With that one edit, I entertain a motion to approve as edited. John Sini makes the motion.
Jonathan makes the...
Jonathan makes this.
I think John Senior.
Junior makes the...
George Riley raised his pen. He made the second.
Sure.
All in favor?
6-0.
6-0.
Thank you.
There we go. Moving right along. Next item up for bid is March 10th, 2026. Another POCD, guys, we're here. Well, that was our workshop thing. Any questions, typos, scrivener's errors on this one? Are we ever gonna, we talked about this years ago where it was an attorney. Sometimes we put Esquire after their names or not.
Sometimes I put attorney first. Sometimes-
Jerry, just a little tweak to on the paragraph Mr. Sini made reference to empty nesters down at the bottom of that.
Oh, yeah.
Chapter 5. Just if you could put empty nesters / 55 and over, just to be a little more.
Yes, the bottom of page 1.
John's over 55 and his son's coming back into Christmas. You're not over 55 yet? Really?
My baby.
I don't know if that's a compliment or not. He's basically
relative to him, I'm saying.
Man. So for the record, I just got hit between the eyes. I'm the oldest guy in the commission. I got George, but he's George. You're older than me. Baloney.
Yes, sir.
Let's just.
Let's go.
Anyway, here we
He
go.
doesn't look a day older than 25. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Karen,
I got a wife at home. I know how to answer that question.
Exactly.
Karen's sitting at the table, she's 23. No question that you switched, so they made one edit here on this one, okay? Anything else we're missing on this one, folks? No, okay. Entertain a motion to approve as edited. Amy makes a motion, Adam makes a second, all in favor? 6-0. There we go, that's done. What else? Upcoming meetings, March 31st.
March 31st is going to be our Plan of Conservation Development Workshop with Neil. Question came up tonight, if you want to have that here in Town Hall or have it be a Zoom, I leave it up to the commission members and we'll take it from there. So let me know your thoughts.
In person.
With Neil, it's better in person. What's the other one, what's the POCD meeting on the 7th? Is that the one we
I think
added?
the 7th, we're going to be going through, I think Fred and I are reviewing Chapter 8 now, which is community facilities. We'll be looking at that. That'll be ready for your review on April 7th. I think he's going to try to get the final version of maybe Chapter 6 or maybe Chapter 9 as well. So that's going to be a pretty full night of town plan stuff. But a lot of it's sitting on my desk right now, but definitely Chapter 8.
And that's just for POCD, right?
On the 7th, we'll do a vote on 17 Harbor. We'll maybe deliberate the moratorium.
On the 7th we're doing
On the
it?
7th, yeah.
Okay. God bless you. Is everybody going to be here on the 31st? Okay, I might pass on that one just in advance.
I have a problem with the 7th.
Okay.
I will not be here for that one.
I might pass on the 31st, Adam.
Yeah, I'll be here.
It's the end of the month for me.
Yeah, that's fine. I can do it.
You're going to pass on participating in the discussion of the POCD?
It's the end of the month for me.
He's got a roof over his head.
7 reports I sent out.
He's got a kid at Purdue he's got to pay for.
Yeah, that right. I still got UVA I got to pay for it.
Yeah, I'll be there. It's fine.
Okay.
I'm indifferent to Zoom or in person,
Okay.
so whatever the commission feels.
Whatever.
I would rather
George, you
do-
said you want to do a person?
That's my
That's fine,
preference.
let's do it in person.
Yeah, I would do
Okay,
it.
in person,
Next one's
Fred.
by Zoom, George.
Oh,
right,
the next one is? Oh, okay. I'll make that great, I guess.
That's good. What time we got? Anything else we're going to add by 2/3 vote? Nothing,
my
right?
kids,
We're
George.
square?
That's it?
Everybody good?
Yeah.
Entertain a motion to adjourn? John Senior makes a motion, Amy makes a second. All in favor? 13. TV 79, thank you very much.